At the Global Liver Institute, we believe it all starts with a patient. So what happens when a patient, a liver patient no less, one of the 500 million people living with conditions that often go undiagnosed, untreated, or misdiagnosed, mistreated, and stigmatized, brings the challenges of liver patients front and center? And what happens when a patient then leads a discussion with world experts in policy, research, clinical care, and wellness on ways to overcome these challenges? Let's find out today on GLI Live. Hello and welcome. My name is Donna Cryer. I'm the CEO of the Global Liver Institute, and I have the great privilege of being your host for this, as most episodes of GLI Live. For those of you who have taken the summer off from GLI Live, welcome back. And for those of you who have been watching or rewatching your favorite episodes or listening to us as a podcast, thank you for that. So as we return to fall, as we return to offices for many of us, as we return to a busy conference schedule, including GLI's own Advanced Advocacy Academy, once again in person in Washington, D.C. I am so excited to discuss pathways to patient advocacy with two passionate, fantastic, just stunning patient advocates and leaders in the space to help us understand the many different ways that people can come to patient advocacy. So I have with me today Lorrinda Gray-Davis. I get choked up, I love saying your full name. And you are so special to me. We are honored that you are a graduate of A3, our Advanced Advocacy Academy. And even more impressively, you are the president of National TRIO, or Transplant Recipients International Organization. And as a transplant recipient, I thank you for your great service to the organization and to the entire community. We also welcome Letitia Aloysius, who comes to us from the cardiac space. She is an advocate and occupational therapy student at Baylor University. So, we like to keep our Texans, as well as our Oklahomans, of course, front and center, always. So thank you so much, Letitia, for joining us.
Thank you.
Excellent. So Lorrinda, I'd love to start with you. And how did you first hear about GLI and A3?
Well, thank you for having me back, because I just love seeing you, and I love GLI. And so I had just had my transplant, and so I was talking to a couple of recipients that were in the Oklahoma area, and it was Karen Hoyt and Kim Martinez. And I'm going to share this because it's such a wonderful story. And I asked Kim something the other day, and she sent me a note. She said, A3 for me was eye-opening. First of all, post-transplant, I felt like I needed to reach out and help other patients like myself. Then, like a sign from above, I ran across a group of patients that were organized and looking for more people to join their tribe. The feeling of being included in such an important mission is beyond a blessing. There, you're in a room with many people that have had many of the same experiences and feelings you've been through. Everyone there is united to make a difference. A3 is a great place to find your path to advocacy. You can harness what you do well to forward the mission of helping liver patients. Like Donna says, it all starts with the patient. Global Liver Institute saves lives by empowering patient advocates to collaborate with policymakers. And so she shared that with me. And I was like, absolutely, I love it, because that's all Karen and Kim spoke about, was how wonderful A3 was and what it was like. And I think Kim was only like a couple months or a couple weeks post-transplant, and just how wonderful it was. So I just had to share that.
I wish the mascara was waterproof. Thank you for that, and I'll thank Kim for that, and Karen. You know, A3 was started because I was too sick to attend Digestive Disease Week, and I realized after a few days of walking around my house by myself. Because of course my fabulous husband went in my stead to collect information and keep relationships warm. But I realized that I needed to find a way to quickly share all of the types of experiences that I've had in advocacy. And to be truly effective, we needed to scale that and have as many liver patients who had all of the different skills and things that I had been privileged to learn throughout my professional career, and were able to leverage that throughout the healthcare ecosystem to change and to make it not so much about what the organization needed, but to what Kim spoke to helping people identify what was that point of pain along their own journeys that they really wanted to fix and change, so other patients coming behind them didn't have to experience, and what skills could we help to match them with to better achieve that change. And so, you know, our impact is in all of the participants who go out and become speakers or authors or start their own organizations or lead national or international organizations. You know, you all are our impact, and I could not be more proud. So Letitia, how did you find your way to advocacy and to GLI for that matter?
Well, advocacy is just something I really had to do my entire life. And being born with congenital heart disease, I have a single ventricle Fontan, which are just some fancy words to say I have half a heart, essentially. And one of the complications of that is Fontan-associated liver disease, which is where that portion comes into it. And I found out about GLI through Meg Didier, who's also a fellow Fontan with FALD. And so I decided maybe I do need to just not ignore my liver and just focus on my heart, but really remember that everything is just connected and everything affects the whole body system. So I've been doing advocacy forever just because you have to when you have a condition that not a lot of people know about. And specifically FALD, I never really learned anything about it. I still am kind of confused, but I just know that the research says that virtually 100% of patients with the Fontan will get Fontan-associated liver disease, and I'm in the beginning stages of that already, and I'm just 21. So I really want to learn more about it, learn how to take care of the liver, and just see what's being done, because all I know is don't drink alcohol. Here's all the things you can do to make sure that it doesn't progress so rapidly, but there's no cure. So I think it's really time that I get connected into not just the heart community, but the liver community as well.
Well, you are now. And we are happy to have you. And I think you bring such an important point that the liver is really central to the body's well functioning, and that so many other conditions are connected to liver disease. And also, you know, having whole or all your own original parts is not necessary here. As someone who, you know, was first diagnosed at age 13, transplanted at 24, and, you know, has lost some organs, has parts of some organs, and then has some, you know, new parts added along the way. We're going to take you just as you are. And you're a whole person, even if you have half a heart. So as a lawyer, they say I don't have one at all. So, you know, really you're ahead of the game. So Lorrinda, tell us about, why you couldn't just step away from your own experience and say, I'm going to go back to highly successful, careers as an entrepreneur. And then you decided, no, I have to advocate.
Well, thank you for asking that question because, I had fatty liver disease and the doctor said it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. And then I had end-stage liver disease that led to liver cancer, and it was inoperable. And it was 6 years ago that I was told that I had inoperable liver cancer. And then, saying that I had to go through a transplant was just an insurmountable mountain that felt like it was too hard to climb, because that realization that that's what's going to happen. And for me, I felt alone. I was terrified. I did not know what to expect. I didn't see anyone that looked like me or had gone through this. And it was, it was hard. And my family didn't know what to do. So, I did receive my transplant, and I just thought, you go through it and you're by yourself, literally, even though your family's there, they don't understand until you talk to someone else and you have that commonality.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also making sure that other people understand that we are people, and you need to listen to patients. That's the one thing I see with GLI that was so wonderful is after my transplant, Kim and Karen were talking, and
Mm-hmm.
A3 happened, and I was like, well, this is wonderful. And I joined the board of TRIO, and I was like, I'm going to start something. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And you've really,
So,
as somebody who's been involved in this advocacy space sort of writ large for, oh my gosh, close to 30 years, I can just say that, you really have revitalized TRIO. There have always been several really active, local chapters, and there's been, great work and great sharing. But I think you've really put it back on the map, back on the national agenda. I would know about it even if I wasn't following you personally. Still being very much involved in transplant policy. I see it becoming, at the forefront and relevant again, and just really living up to its potential. And I can feel your energy and your drive and your expertise and experience. So I want you to sort of go into your career beforehand, because I want people to appreciate sort of all that you're bringing to the table in addition to your lived experience with fatty liver disease, cancer, and transplant, sort of a trifecta, for sure. But you bring a lot to the table beyond that.
well, thank you. So my background is in construction, and it was actually contracts, insurance, bonding, all that fun stuff. But in a field of men, which Donna knows very well, and I was handed let's go do some diversity and let's do outreach and let's make sure everyone is included.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, that is what it's about, is making sure everyone's voice is at the table. And I've been going to Washington, D.C., doing Capitol Hill visits for molecular diagnostic. And, for me, it's making sure that everyone's at the table.
Right.
And so who am I bringing, because I want to make sure that a patient's, a parent's voice is heard, because they're going through the process, just making sure that all communities are there. And I think that's really important for us.
I think that's so important. It's thanks to you and Karen and Kim that I was able to take the audible from one of your fine senators from Oklahoma, who did not introduce himself. I just recognized that he was from Oklahoma, and as a good denizen of Washington, D.C. and government graduate, but and was able to talk about some of the special populations and like Native communities and the impact, the particular impact that we were talking about. He was asking questions actually about kidney disease, but kidney disease, liver disease, being on the transplant list, there are special considerations and populations, and there are sort of differences of the experience and the healthcare systems, even given to tribes and on reservations, that are relevant. And so when you talk about bringing everyone to the table, we need to really be expansive, and think about who's missing, who's impacted, who should be here, and be able to tell their story directly without intermediaries or some sort of somebody in between them. So I think how your approach to it is so important. So Letitia, I'd love to ask you, along the extensive journey that you've already had so far, what are some things that you want to change, that you've that have sort of caused you to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is how they do this. Like, we need to jump in there.
I think that's a very open-ended question, because there's a lot that needs to be changed in many different fronts.
Mm-hmm.
But I think specifically in my journey, I just think that FALD is not spoken about, and no one really knows what Fontana-associated liver disease is. Even within the liver community, you hear all these different liver conditions and all these things, but no one knows what FALD is. And that's very much associated in the cardiac community, but it's affecting the liver organ, not the heart.
Right.
So even though everything is connected, I think our bodies are just so incredible. But at the same time, it's not just one portion of the field that can talk about it. We need everyone to collaborate. And I think that's a big thing that we need to change. There needs to be more communication and collaboration within the different disciplinaries. Specifically within the liver community, I think just more education on the existence of Fontana-associated liver disease, what that looks like, and what options we do have, which is it's just all preventative at this moment, and more research on what can be done to not only make sure it doesn't happen until very later on in life, but to cure it altogether. That would be great. So I think my biggest thing is just more education and awareness.
I think that's so important. And, to the point of collaboration, that's how we've been built. That's why, all of our councils have, not only multiple stakeholder groups, but go, far beyond hepatology. Why we've always had like the Association of Black Cardiologists and the American Heart Association was our first call. The Endocrine Society has participated, and the American College of Sports Medicine and Nutrition, because I believe that those like all of healthcare needs to be less siloed, because, as you pointed out, as people, these parts don't operate separately. And so why should medicine continue to be that way? And so it's been really it's been exciting to see the response often from many physicians when they're paired on a GLI Live platform or in a council meeting, whether it's pediatric hepatologists and OBGYNs. They're like, oh, we don't get a chance to spend enough time together. And the fact that we've catalyzed that, or the kidney groups and the cardiovascular groups are like, oh yeah, we need to be working together. And so, if we can create that platform to advance that, I think that has been shown to increase the sharing of expertise across the disciplines that are necessary to understand what's thought of as a heart condition, but has big implications in the liver. So, what's it? Who champions the patients? Who's the coach of the team? Who's accountable? All of those questions, within the workflow have implications for the patient flow, and how effective our advocacy can be. And so I certainly know what it's like to have a disease. I have PSC without a cure, and to have to have just being in the conversation as the first success metric. I think with liver disease as a whole, for a lot of different, professional organizations and patient organizations for that matter too. Just having liver in the conversation is a success and is a start to things. So thank you. So Lorrinda, you mentioned molecular diagnostics, and I know that is that's a very important issue. It's a hot issue in Congress right now. I think probably much due to yours and our advocacy. Because if people aren't diagnosed, if people aren't identified as having a disease, how can they avail themselves of all the new treatments and things that are being created or monitored and working on preventing secondary disease or more severe disease. So tell us more about what we need to know about molecular diagnostics and what's happening today.
The molecular diagnostic, you get tongue tied every once in a while, but it is so important, and they're doing it with all organ types, with heart, lung, kidney, and we need it for liver, and it's in right now. They're working on it, but the problem is that if this diagnostic billing with Medicare is not, if it's stifled, innovation for us as post-transplant patients, because you look at the entire transplant system and it's like it stops after you get a transplant, and then there's no innovation with medication. And I absolutely love what you're doing with the education about liver disease, because primary care doctors have no clue about the signs and symptoms, and patients know about a heart attack. They know the signs, but they don't know the signs of my liver's going bad, or they have not gone to the doctor. So that is one of my passions, is making sure that people become liver aware. And, I have a brother that was diagnosed 3 years ago with fatty liver disease. His liver was enlarged 2 years ago, and now he's starting to go into liver failure. And he said it wasn't a big deal. And I'm like, so I lost my mind a little bit and said it is a very big deal. And what can I do? I went into big sister mode, and this is how we're going to progress, But it's, people don't understand it.
Right. I had a moment like that too when a family member, gave birth, and the infant had jaundice, and it was a very easy birth. So God bless her. And so she wasn't in the hospital for it only took her a few hours, and so she was gonna be gone, wanted to go home within 24 hours. And I was just like, well, there's a family history of liver disease, so maybe you want to have them check that out. And she was like, we don't have a family history of, I'm like, we have a family history of liver disease. Guess what, we're family now. And so in fact, after further testing, some jaundice, of course, is transient, but she did need several days of light therapy. And so, if I hadn't been by the bedside, it would have just gone home and with some of her neighbors saying, oh yeah, all babies are jaundiced. And just like, it's just a little fatty liver, you don't have to worry about it. And even when there is a family member, a close family member who has gone through that, it still doesn't sink in. And so how do we make it personal for everyone? I mean, everyone has a liver, so everyone should be concerned or be thinking about their liver health in the same way as they think about heart health and brain health. And so, how did you then communicate, or how are you strategizing about how to communicate so that your brother or other even just family members start to think like, oh, this applies to me too?
I am working hard to strategize with them, just because I had a genetic disorder I didn't know about. And this is my half brother, so he may not have the same genetic disorder, but there's a possibility he's a carrier. So it is people, I don't have a doctor title on my name at all. And I can just say my experience is this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way I have to educate is this is my experience. I know it because I've been through it.
Absolutely.
And I think the more that we share out in public and in groups and
Mm-hmm.
share about some of our struggles on social media, and we educate that way, and that's a good way to get out there.
Absolutely. It's finally starting to sink in amongst reporters and policymakers that there's so many different ways that people develop liver disease. It's not all about alcohol, and there's genetic markers like autoimmune conditions. There's viral conditions. There are heart conditions that lead to liver disease, or cystic fibrosis also has a lot of the patients have concurrent liver disease. There are, of course, fatty liver disease, and there's just a host of different drivers and causes, from people during their pregnancies to infants to small children, young adults, working adults, and seniors. And so there's so many myths that we've had to confront in the 9 3/4 years that we've been in existence. It's really amazing. What little people do know about liver disease is usually wrong. And so we're starting from square one or behind the square a little bit. So Letitia, as you were sort of early in your advocacy journey, you've identified collaboration and awareness as things. Are there particular skills or things or topics that you'd like to learn more about as we're coming into A3 and polishing the planning and the program? It customarily includes how to tell your story strategically, information about research and development, reimbursement and value, and policy, and health system, navigation. So those are sort of the general topics, but within there's certainly a lot, and it's really built now at this point with what do people want to learn most. So what would you like to learn?
I think my first thing is just figuring out what my specific liver looks like with FALD and like how that progression can happen.
Mm-hmm.
Mine's already enlarged. There's like a little bit of scarring already,
Mm-hmm.
but the way it was described by my cardiologist of all people it's just a little scarring. So it's not like full on FALD yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to know what full on FALD means and like
Mm-hmm.
what those stages are, because everyone seems to have a different definition just because there's not awareness for it, and it's been pushed aside because there's more pressing issues almost. But
it's nothing more pressing to you.
Right. So it's like I think everything is almost an equal issue unless
Mm-hmm.
something is immediately like causing you to just,
Mm-hmm.
Straight up have a heart attack or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But right now everything is stable. So we still want to make sure that we do the things that we're not going to cause early liver failure when it could have prevented a little more. So just more education on that.
Right.
And just the normal function of a liver and what is abnormal about mine, things like that in general, because I have no idea.
We can do that.
Yes.
We can do that. We have. That's why we always start with basically liver literacy.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the OG A3 might remember liver lingo bingo. With me buying lifesavers to be the chips. But we've always had someone loaned to us fabulously by NIH to come and just give us like basic liver terminology, so that no matter how we came there, I came from autoimmune and transplant, and had to learn, liver cancer and viral hepatitis and all these different things to be able to represent the community better. And so we always start with just let's understand and have the language and terminology, and being able to understand, what normal and abnormal look like, whether it's in your lab results or your imaging. And I mean, when people were, walking around, discussing, portal hypertension, I knew, I'm like, yes, we've done something. So that will certainly be on the agenda. Lorrinda, what are you looking forward to in this year's in A3, or just for someone as experienced as you? How would you like to grow?
I think it's always important that a patient can learn how to tell their story just succinct and become very clear on the messaging and whatever they're messaging. So it depends on whether it's health insurance or getting coverage for medicine, things like that. I mean, that is what I really noticed when I first went through A3 was the liver lingo, which was wonderful, and the insurance and being able to navigate, because there's so many things that a patient navigates, and everyone thinks, well, that's not advocacy. You have to advocate in every step and everything you do when you're sick. And so I think that's really important, and be, like I said, succinct on your topic or your story, being able to tell it.
Absolutely. And so I think that's why we added the section on navigating, care, including the insurance issues and understanding how the healthcare system is sort of put together as you put the pieces together sometimes for yourself. So I'm excited to continue on this journey, this advocacy journey together with both of you, and all those that you represent. And I look forward to everyone who will be joining us for this year's. If you cannot, just to let you know that the sessions will be available afterwards on YouTube and social, for people to share and have access to the information afterwards. And so with that, I thank both of my guests for today, and thank you to all the viewers. Please be sure to like this video, subscribe, and share your thoughts and suggestions in the comments below. Join us weekly on Wednesdays at noon Eastern Time for more episodes of GLI Live. Check out our website, globalliver.org, and follow us on social media to learn more about the Global Liver Institute and stay up to date with the latest in liver health. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and stay connected.